University of Technology Sydney in 2036. This video focuses on the major strategic issues facing University of Technology Sydney going forward to 2036. In this regard, the focus will be on 4 strategic scenarios which create the basis of the future university development. The video will explore the core facts of competitive rivalry, buyers and suppliers, strengths, substitutes, and market entrants, compared to the external influence to generate a future base. Scenario 1.
First scenario focuses on the revolutionary services universities have implemented in their teaching strategies. These advancements include virtual reality devices, which will replace campus learning, and the limited online capabilities universities offered 20 years ago. This revolutionary new technology has opened up new teaching opportunities.
An increased focus on impact of growing population with urban consolidation, focus is placed on campus that can be accountable for the emission of solar energy, wind, etc. The consolidation focuses on the policies that are implemented to ensure better urban infrastructure. Adjusted legislation relating to payment system, visas for foreign students and international exchange students have meant that international students have the ability to do so in a way that allows for a greater number of applicants to successfully transition into Australian universities without compromising the position of Australian-produced students.
Scenario 2.
In Scenario 2, universities have begun offering courses online after 5G was released. This has been a popular option for international and long-distance students.
Competitive rivalry. Limitations set by the physical location of a university have been broken down through the use of 5G to create a stronger online presence. Bias. Students have benefited greatly from the increased opportunities open to them in the form of online universities. Suppliers. Universities are partnering up with internet service providers for their students to receive discounted rates on their internet and 5G bills. Substitutes. International and exchange students now have access to new online platforms which allow them to study without needing to travel overseas or interstate to attend their chosen university. Entrance. Australian universities now have to compete with international universities who have entered the Australian market through their online courses. Political influences. Government spending has had some incremental changes over the last couple decades as each government party alters the nation's budgetary spending. Economic influences. The decreasing numbers of international students travelling to Australia has caused some impact on the local economies surrounding universities as demand for apartments have decreased. Social influences. Universities have created their own social networking platforms so that students can create friends and connect with other students globally. Technological influences. Advancements include a new generation of computer processing and improved internet capabilities, which have been used to upgrade the range of online services offered by universities. Legal influences. Copyright laws and regulations have had some minor reforms to involve this new sector of online universities operating from their overseas departments. Environmental influences. Less students are travelling to and from university, resulting in less emissions from cars and less strain on public transportation.
That brings us to Scenario 3.
Okay, so our Scenario 3 is the funding revolution. It looks at increased funds through international students who've come to Australia and grown the university sector. Increased technological aids have increased the ability for universities to grow, and with all that being said, that's what the funding scenario is all about. Buyers. With students being the obvious beneficiaries of the service provided, it is also the companies and firms that acquire the skills of graduates who are also positively impacted. Competitive analysis. Porter's 5 powers. Competitive rivalry. An increase in student participation requires a greater need for accommodation, resources, and facilities. From the year 2016, tertiary education has become a far greater necessity for high school graduates. Substantial advancements in many fields of work, both physical and theoretical, have led to necessary prerequisite studies being implemented for accreditation to be achieved. This in turn has solidified the university sector as a far more influential and formidable pathway for future prosperity, ultimately benefiting the funding needed to generate and maintain this increase in participation. Economic influences. The Australian government has increased its budget for HEX Help in an effort to attract and enable more people to attend university and increase their skills and employability. The extra movement surrounding universities has resulted in increased student spending in food, entertainment, accommodation and retail economics, resulting in an overall increase in revenues raised by the government through taxes. Social influences. Students that originally lived far away from their university have been moving into student accommodation and sharing apartments and studios, resulting in higher density living, particularly in the capital cities around Australia, as this is where many universities are located. This was helped along by new and always improving railway systems that has made travel to campus far more easier, enticing students to attend university and fulfil services in which they are investing into. Suppliers. The Australian Government, both federal and state, provide research grants and funding for Australian universities to complete projects. This supply of funds is critical for the success of universities and allows them to upgrade technology and create new buildings. Technological influences. Government parties have created funding schemes to universities that have programs dedicated to the development of new technologies in an effort to make Australia more competitive with overseas markets. Entrance. As with substitutes, the possibility of new entrants entering the university sector has intensified largely due to the utilisation of transnational communication between student and institute. Again, as technology improves, so does the push for services to become available from easy and ready-to-use online applications. Substitutes. The recent technological boom has seen a whole new learning dynamic come to the forefront, with students having the option to study straight from the devices instead of attending classes.
Scenario 4.
The fourth scenario discusses the hyper-competitive nature of the university industry as a result of the emergence of transnational universities. Porter's 5 Powers competitive rivalry. In 2036, transnational universities will charge high fees in their parent countries, including Australia, hence allowing universities to remain competitive through the use of load-based tuition fees. Buyers. Reforms which reduce the HEX help limit to $70,000 has had a marked impact on students completing their Masters or Juris Doctor, meaning they have had to look for other ways to finance their education. Suppliers. In 2036, funding boosts will be largely derived from non-government sources, such as students, industry, philanthropists, and global collaborations. Substitutes. In 2036, many mature-age students have shifted to individual subject enrolment instead of completing full degrees, resulting in a loss of funding from these students. Entrance. International universities with reputable alumni and facilities have undercut the domestic tertiary education sector. Henceforth, pre-existing universities that seek to partner with entrants will have transformed the sector by creating new lines of business that deliver incremental revenue to the core business. Environmental analysis, political influences. Renewed immigration policies and visa procedures will have a marked impact on the movement of international students through Australian universities. Economic influences. Unavoidable economic downturn resulted in a rise in unemployment, which in turn generated a renewed interest in higher-level education, as was seen during the Great Depression. Social influences. The emergence of transnational universities has eliminated talented staff and students from domestic institutions. Technological influences. On the 30th of April 2016, the Australian Government released the National Strategy for International Education 2025. The resulting improvements to education, training and research have worked to provide Australian unis with a range of modern technological capabilities. Legal influences. Modifications, including changes to the General Skilled Migration Program, have made it more difficult for international students to stay in Australia after completing their degrees, resulting in reduced enrolments. Environmental influences. Universities across Australia have also been updating infrastructure with environmental objectives in mind and have been receiving government funding.
UTS in 2036.
Despite the themes being contrasting with the themes of funding and technology, there are still commonalities that have surfaced from our research.
The environment is a concern that will develop further in 2036. Even in 2016, corporations and universities are encouraged to reduce their emissions and be paperless. UTS's new Chow Chak building emphasises environmental concerns being important through its awarding of a Green Star design by the Green Building Council of Australia. Although it is clear that universities are doing their bit, they need to ensure that they are investing in the latest technology and doing all they can to reduce their emissions and, even if possible, become self-sufficient. Finally, with all scenarios being cast 2 decades into the future, the issue of legal compliance is also apparent. Whilst it cannot be known what the new legislation will be, it is explicit that universities will need to be aware of lobbying bodies for legislation that relates to their industry and be flexible enough to comply to these laws. Another commonality in the scenarios was the rise of the national population and the community concerns as a result of this. Political issues are apparent in the early 21st century in regards to taking our jobs and our welfare. Our scenarios advocate stronger political ties with other nations, particularly with developing countries and their growing middle class. However, issues such as urban consolidation and racism will both be apparent due to growing population fears advocated by public figures such as Dick Smith. For universities, we recommend cultural events and more efficient living spaces to solve this trend and ensure a welcoming environment for international students. The idea of virtual reality was something that was discussed and is in many ways expected to be active by 2036. This is due to the new virtual reality gaming headset, which many believe are a start of many good things to come in the future. Virtual reality gives the opportunity to connect to people globally, presenting potential for tertiary education as well as many other industries. However, as new technology develops, so do new ways of committing crime. We recommend that there is continual investment in these technologies to ensure security and continue to improve the process.